Chapter 4, downloaded from the hard disk of Zachary Gustafson. Picnic of Death, Scene 17. Exterior shot, pleasant pasture, day. A troop of Girl Guides with picnic baskets skips gaily across the meadow toward a babbling brook. Guide leader, pointing out birds chirping overhead. There's a robin redbreast. There's a yellow-bellied sapsucker. Little Junie, oh look, butterflies! Little Maisie, look at that tree! What happened to it? Point of view shot. The top of the tree rests on a pile of sawdust around a stump. Something has squeezed the stuffing out of this mighty redwood. But what? The field of golden grain begins to undulate. Guide leader, it's just the wind, girls. With a terrible hiss of death, a 50-foot-long, two-headed, black-scaled boa constrictor rises out of the wheat field. Close up, spirals whirl within the snake's huge eyes. 4 hypnotizer beams transfix the girls. 2 at a time, the twin, hideous, disgusting heads pick them up and swallow them whole. We see their bodies as lumps, traveling all the way down 50 feet of snake. I leaned back from my computer, frowning. If there's a problem with my writing style, it's that too many of my characters die. I mean, that's great for the action, but sometimes there's nobody left to be in the rest of the movie. So I deleted the eating part and rewrote. Guide leader, quick, little Maisie, the Flamethrower! My brow furrowed. There was a believability problem here. Everyone knows a flamethrower won't fit inside even the largest picnic basket. Hollywood studio executives wouldn't go for it, so... Guide leader, quick, little Maisie, the grenade! Little Maisie opens her picnic basket, careful not to crease the red checkered cloth. Close up, as she opens the saran wrap, uncovering the grenade. The lace of her pinafore rides up, revealing her Special Forces tattoo. Little Maisie, lobbing the grenade into a snake mouth. Die, reptile scum! Bang! It wasn't the sound of the grenade. It was a toy block bouncing off my printer. I wheeled in my swivel chair. My 14-month-old baby brother Dewey was standing there with his angel face on. Only the halo was missing. Don't believe it. Doomsday Dewey could hardly walk and he couldn't talk at all. But he had the destructive power of a kiloton of dynamite. Still smiling innocently, Doomsday reared back and hurled another block. This one was headed straight for the computer screen. With speed I didn't know I had, my arm shot out and knocked it down at the last second. Before I could recover, he launched another one. I barely got my foot in the way. Cut it out, Dewey! That's when I saw he was towing his whole bag of blocks. Mom! Mom! But it was too late. A barrage of toys was en route to my precious computer. All I could do was dance in front of it, snatching and deflecting, stopping those blocks in any way I could, including with my face. Zachary, your room is a mess! Why are there blocks all over the floor? I pointed an accusing finger at my little brother. It's Dewey, Mom! He's trying to bust my computer! She picked up Doomsday and scowled at me. Do you honestly expect me to believe that this little baby attacked you and your computer with blocks? The kid's arms hung limply at his sides. He looked like he couldn't lift a block, let alone throw like Greg Maddox. He's not a baby, I muttered. He's a very short terrorist. You have an attitude problem, my mother accused. Fighting with your brother? Fighting at school? Huh? I haven't been fighting at school. Her eyes narrowed. Then how do you explain that bump on your head? I was under the table trying to catch a runaway chicken. She cut me off. Now really, Zachary, I know your imagination is important to your writing, but please don't use it on me. She stormed out with Doomsday smiling at me over her shoulder. "And clean up those blocks!" That part came from halfway down the stairs. I checked over my computer. There was a little scratch where the block hit the printer, but everything else was okay. Still, it was pretty upsetting to think that my writing career almost got smashed. I mean, how could I sit down and describe a 50-foot-long boa constrictor blowing to pieces with charred intestines and hunks of snake flesh flying all over the Girl Guides when I was in a bad mood? Great. 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and already my weekend was shot. Then it came to me like a bolt out of the blue. How do you lift yourself up when your spirits are down? You hang out with friends. And who bet was a better friend of mine than my good buddy Milo Neal? To be honest, we weren't quite as close as I'd hoped we'd be. And that's probably because Milo was so busy with the chicken from the Black Lagoon. Actually, he didn't really know who I was, which presented a problem. How could he introduce me to his famous LA-connected father if he didn't remember my name? That was all more reason Milo and I needed some quality time together. I was knocking on his door in 3 minutes flat. I recognized Mrs. Neal from her pictures in the paper when she moved back to town after the divorce. "Hi," I greeted her. "I'm here to see Milo." "Oh, Milo's still in school," she told me. "He's working late on his science project." Even now, that stupid chicken was messing me up. Then she pitched me a fat one. "Are you a friend of Milo's?" I gave it a home run swing. "Oh, yeah," I said quickly. "I'm Zachary, probably his best friend in the whole school." That might not have even been a lie. We had plans to get together today, but I guess he got wrapped up in our project. Okay, that was a lie, but thanks to Mrs. Baggio, everyone in class was sort of Milo's partner. She looked worried. "Oh dear, maybe I should call the school." Oh, that's okay, Mrs. Neal. I'll just walk along and see if I can catch him on the way home." I spotted Milo a couple of blocks from the school. He was stooped over to adjust the blanket in Henrietta's milk crate. I came up behind him and awarded him a best friend slap on the back. "Wow!" Shocked, he snapped back up like elastic and glared at me through Bertrand St. Rene glasses that were slightly askew. It was Worm Guts time again. I watched your dad's show last night," I babbled, trying to smooth things over. "Well, not exactly, because my family's too cheap to spring for the Science Channel, so it was scrambled, but I heard most of it and it sounded great." Milo picked up Henrietta's milk crate and started walking toward his house. I trotted along beside him. "How come you taking the chicken home?" I asked. "A whole weekend is too long to leave the specimen on her own," he explained. "She needs fresh food and water at least twice a day." I peeked under the blanket. A baleful eye and a loud squawk warned me away. "Very cute," I totally lied. "A chicken is not cute," Milo explained patiently. "A chicken is a chicken. It is not a pet. It exists purely to occupy a space in the food chain." I looked at my hands, which were dotted with peck marks from guess who. I think my fingers must occupy the space directly below that. Motto nodded grudgingly. I know it looks like the specimen hates you, but she doesn't possess the brain power to single you out." We were at the Neal's front walk. Milo seemed pretty weirded out by the fact that I followed him onto the porch instead of leaving. "Well, goodbye." Suddenly the door was flung open and Milo's mother was beaming at us. "Zachary! I see you found him! What, Milo, why didn't you tell me your friend would be stopping by?" She was so psyched about me that it seemed pretty plain she'd been worrying about her son being lonely in his new town. You wouldn't believe the look on Milo's face when she hauled the two of us inside with these great chili nachos she'd whipped up. I was thinking, I'm in. I mean, surely it was just a short step from nachos with Milo to Victor Neal setting up a meeting with me and the president of Universal Studios. I could almost see their special effects department building my 50-foot-long boa constrictor. Then the doorbell rang, and a few seconds Mrs. Neal was calling, "Milo, it's another one of your friends!" I glared at him accusingly. But poor Milo looked up so dumbfounded that I instantly forgave him for betraying our friendship. Into the kitchen burst none other than Kelly Marie. She breezed past us and knelt over the milk crate. "There's my little Henrietta! Hello, sweetie!" She looked daggers at Milo. "What's the big idea of taking her out of the classroom without even thinking that the people who love her might be worried?" Milo spread his arms wide. "The specimen couldn't be left at school all weekend." "That's it!" Kelly Marie snatched up the milk carton. "She's coming with me!" Milo was completely mystified. "Why?" "Because at your house, she's nothing more than a specimen. In my house, she's a guest." I picked up Milo's line. "A chicken's not a guest. A chicken's is a chicken." She was ready for me. "Shut up, Zachary!" Milo looked worried. I frowned. That was the best Victor Neal's son could do? What about, "Get out of here, you big mouth pain in the butt, and get your own chicken, and don't come back until your dad stars in his own TV show"? Instead, he said, "I have to maintain constant contact with my experiment." "Fine," agreed Kelly Marie. She grabbed the notepad on the kitchen counter and scribbled her name and phone number. "Call me anytime," she added, slapping the paper in front of Milo. And she went out, carrying the milk crate with her. That really burned me up. Here I was, Milo's best friend, but all Kelly Marie had to do was waltz in here, crab around for 3 minutes, and presto, he had her phone number. Quickly, I tore off another sheet and wrote down my number. Milo was giving me the worm guts treatment. He was going to throw it out. I knew it. If he wasn't my best friend, I'd really hate that guy. Fade to black. Chapter 5. Experiment Notes. Milo Neal, 10/28/96. Did you ever get the feeling that there's something going on and everybody knows about it except you? And that something, if you just could find out what it was, would unlock so many mysteries? Like why Mrs. Baggio has dropped everything so the whole class can participate in my simple science experiment. Everyone else is doing a proj. What's so special about a chicken? Or why that girl Kelly Marie bulldozed her way into my house and walked off with my subject. It's hard to believe these Minnesotans can't seem to accept this is a specimen, not their darling Henrietta. They wouldn't adopt a lab rat as a pet. And Zachary Gustafson. I can't guess what's driving him, but I know he's driving me crazy. My father has an expression. He sticks to you like ugly on an ape. ZG equals a human boomerang. No matter how many times you throw him away, he always comes back. Now he thinks he and I equal best friends. Things were a lot simpler in California. I miss my dad. But I know if I lived with him in Los Angeles, I'd miss my mom just as much. Of course, the weather would be better. This town equals deep freeze. I had misgivings about releasing my experiment to KMG. Sure enough, on Monday, subject would undergo a 6% increase in body mass. Even an idiot could spot the size difference. And one did. No way that's Henrietta, ZG accused. I'll bet she croaked on you, and you're trying to cover it up by buying a new chicken. But then subject picked his hand so hard it bled, which was better ID than a social security card. It was still her, all right. How could a chicken know to hate one person and not another? Further study required. Although sometimes I think chomping a hunk out of ZG's hands would make me feel better too. You overfed her, I accused KMG. She's fat. KMG responds to an undeniable truth by going on the offensive. My mom was late for a PTO meeting so she could drive me to the Farmers Union to buy birdseed infant starter mash. I fed her what you said. I fed her when you said. But not how much I said, I retorted. She ate it, didn't she? Snapped KMG, eyes shooting sparks. If Henrietta's growing, it's because she's thriving on love, which is more than she can do at your house. You don't even like her. I responded for at least the 10th time. There's nothing to like or dislike. This is a science project. Yours is on recycling. Do you like old newspapers? KMG leaned into my face like a Marine drill sergeant. Recycling old newspapers cleans up the environment, which makes the ecosystem a better place for living creatures like Henrietta. So yes, I love old newspapers. Arguing with KMG equals banging your head against the wall. It's noisy, painful, and pointless. You know what your problem is, Milo Neal? She went on. Too much brain and not enough heart. It may be good science, but it's definitely not living. However, the size increase happened, I sighed. I just think it's just about time to stop treating her like a hatchling. What are we just supposed to treat her like? Growled Adam L., the homecoming queen. A pullet, I replied. That's the next stage in the life cycle. She remains a pullet until she becomes a full-fledged hen. What's so different about being a pullet? Asked Brendan Walters. Well, for starters, I replied, she can't live in that old crate anymore. She needs space to move around. I had noticed Mrs. Baggio quivering with excitement through all of this. Finally, her enthusiasm bubbled over the surface. I have such a wonderful surprise for everyone! She threw open an equipment closet, and there stood a bale of chicken wire and 2 bags of sawdust. We're going to build a chicken coop! Mrs. Baggio, I said, shocked. The specimen couldn't possibly survive the harsh winter outside. Oh, not outside, Mrs. B assured me. Right here in the lab. There's plenty of room. We'll just move these tables, stack those chairs in the corner. Come on, people, let's get to work. I wonder if all new students get this kind of special treatment. Here I was, worrying about finding a bigger box, and the whole class, including the teacher, was building luxury accommodations for my experiment. This definitely wouldn't happen in California. Maybe it equals small-town hospitality. Further study required. The coop took up the entire southeast corner of the room. Mrs. B stapled 4-foot-high chicken fencing to the south wall and strung it across to the east wall. That made a triangular enclosure, which we filled with sawdust. Yes, I helped. Nobody asked me to, but I felt it was only fair that I pitch in with my own science project. When I leaned over to fix some tangled wire, I distinctly heard A.L. mutter, I got a week of detention for gum wrapper on the art room floor, but 40 pounds of sawdust is no problem if it's for Milo's chicken. Can't you see it's not my fault? It's Mrs. B. Don't listen to him, Milo, pal, whispered ZG. He's just bummed because his hockey team stinks. By the way, I forgot to thank you for having me over on Friday. What a great time it was. A real party. A party? Sitting in the kitchen eating my mother's nachos? Look, Henrietta, warbled KMG. Look at your lovely new home. She lifted the specimen out of the milk crate and placed her inside the pen. The pullet darted around, exploring a new territory. The whole class broke into applause. Take a bow, Milo, crowed Mrs. B. I must have been bright red. Somebody, probably A.L., muttered the word conceited. People always say Californians are strange. They obviously have never been to St. Martin, Minnesota.